in the evening, the one that both of us have a little more stake in this game here, the Peach Bowl. Ohio State is going down into Atlanta to face the defending national champions, Georgia Bulldogs. Current time, the spread is 6.5. Over under is set at 62. So Fresh and I decided to do something a little bit different for this game because these are our two teams. We have decided that we are going to flip each other before we give our picks on the game. We are going to flip and kind of say what the other side would have to do to win this football game. So Fresh, I will turn it over to you and let you and see what is Ohio State have to do to win this football game.
Well, thanks, Seth. Yeah, we are. This is our podcast divided, so it's cool to take. We're going to take on how we think the other team can beat our own squad. Looking at the Buckeyes, this program is built with a lot of talent on the perimeter, especially on offense. But that's not the key, in my opinion, to winning this football game from an offensive perspective. What Coach Day, C.J. Stroud, Harrison have to do is actually do the opposite of what they want to. And it happened a lot in that Michigan football game where they ran the ball with a lot of success early. And then when they kind of flipped the script and started throwing it more and sort of just getting fancy, that's where the offense sort of clawed down. They've got to be able to do that against the Dogs. They've got to be able to run the football. In the first quarter, it might be 2 yards, might be 3 yards, but you've got to run the ball consistently and not run away from it. If you look back at the Ohio State 2 years they won, they made the playoff. In 2014, there's some NFL running back for the Dallas Cowboys named Ezekiel Elliott, and Cardell Jones chucked it all around, but Zeke was the glue of that Ohio State offense. They ran the football effectively in the Big Ten title game and in both the playoffs, and they won a national championship. And they made it a couple of years back. Trey Sermon, they finally got him in the fold. He ran the ball successfully, got them through that first win, and got them in the national championship game to play Alabama. But they ran the ball with force and effective, and that opened up the passing game. That made Justin Fields more effective. Made Cardell Jones, when they were playing in 14, him and Zeke, made him more effective. The running game is key to Ohio State being successful and slowing down the pass rush of opposing teams. They've got to run the ball consistently, whether it's between the tackles, whether it's on the perimeter, but you have to have that option available, because if it's not, you're going to have 4 or 5 guys, 6 guys playing in the secondary, linebackers running over the middle of the field, covering passing lanes, and eventually it's going to be pass rush teeing off, and ignoring any running back in the backfield whatsoever because they know it's not an option. You've got to keep that attack in your arsenal to maintain consistency, maintain ball control, and maintain the down and distance of anything. You had early success by running the ball much more than you did throwing versus Michigan. That was effective. And then you started chucking the ball a lot more in the second half. That's where disasters happen. You've got to be able to run the football. Yes, Trayvon Henderson's not playing. Williams is playing. You have another host of running backs. Run the football, rotate them, keep them fresh, but run the football, be effective with it. Because eventually, if you do start weighing on the defensive front, that 3 yards in the first quarter could be 4, could be 5, could be 6 coming the end of the game, especially if you have a lead and people start getting worn out and you make them quit. But you've got to run the football. You've also got to keep that Georgia offense on the solid because they don't look pretty, you're like, oh, Stetson Bennett, whoever. But stat-wise, that offense can put up points. You cannot let them get going either. You've got to be able to maintain control of the football game and play on your own terms. And also by running the ball, later in that football game, you bring that 5th, that 6th, that 7th guy into the box. That's when the passing game opens up. You want those safeties dropping down because if they are, that's where Stroud in the single coverage dominates. Marvin Harrison Jr. has, I think, 11 touchdowns against single coverage on the season. That's what you want. You don't want them playing zone. You don't want the safety over the top. If you run the ball, they drop down, you hit the big shot, you're in good spots. You got to be more physical, especially that offensive line. I've not seen a physical offensive line in Ohio State in a while. You've got to be able to own the line of scrimmage. If you can impose your will, running the football, but then also pass protecting and giving Stroud a full pocket, you're going to be in great shape. But you've got to own up and take that to the next level. Michigan has kind of taken that narrative away for the past 2 years. This is a chance for you guys to redeem yourself. Be physical at the line of scrimmage and attack that Georgia front. Because, yes, there's a lot of talented players there, but if you can protect and give them lanes to throw and give your opportunity to run the football, you're going to be in better situations. You're going to make them start guessing instead of being the aggressor. And that's what you want to do if you're a physical offensive line. And then you got to hit your deep shots. If you look back through the years, Jamison Williams, Mechie, the host of Alabama receivers, the 2019 LSU team, they hit their deep shots when they had them. Those quarterbacks and receivers, they made the plays down the field because they're there. They will be had throughout the football game. Tennessee did not hit their deep shots, and they paid for it because you're not getting to stretch the field, and eventually you're getting desperate and pass rush starts coming, and you fall into that trap. If you hit your deep shots, if you have them there, you've got to connect because if not, then they know it's not a threat. So make sure you hit those deep shots if you have those opportunities available. And then lastly, sometimes you got to slow it down. I know you want to be fancy, you want to be flying around. You got to maybe someone put the foot on the gas and sometimes pull it off a little bit and maintain the clock. Do not allow Georgia back in the football game. If you milk the clock and kill it and put points on the board and maybe an 8 to 10, 12 play drive, that's how you win football games as well. You get your defensive rest, you keep their offense on the sideline, you maintain control, you play in your terms. That's how you dictate a football game. You don't have to score every 30 seconds or 45 seconds because obviously, if you look at Tennessee as an example, sometimes scoring so fast doesn't exactly help you in big games. You need to be able to start fast, keep playing heavy, and then maybe back it off a little bit, slow it down, maintain it, keep the defense always guessing. On the other side, defensively, Ohio State, your defense has definitely improved since last year, significantly. You have a lot of talented players, JTT, Eichenberg, Steele Chambers. There's players in the defense. It's Ohio State. You've recruited a top five, an average of a top five class over the past 9 years. There's no lacking of players on this team. It's coaching them up, getting them in there, and playing with pride and tackling. You have to own the line of scrimmage. Same thing on the other side. You're going to come against a Georgia offensive line that finished second in the best offensive line in category rating, well award, whatever. You've got to be on the line of scrimmage. Do not let them get that running game going because the opposite will happen. They're going to play in their terms. You've got to be able to stand up, get penetration internally, attack Stetson Bennett, force him to outside. If you ever watch Stetson Bennett play, penetration through the middle, forcing to the edges, if you can cover the flats, he makes mistakes sometimes. You've got to make him play unorthodox, but not in a good way. You've got to make him a little worried. And then lastly, your safeties have got to tackle. If running backs are available, if tight ends are coming on the field, you've got to cover and tackle, cover and tackle. If you're not tackling, that's where bad things happen. You've got to get up to the line of scrimmage and tackle and wrap up and be successful that way. You cannot let a 4-yard run become a 5-yard, become a 6-yard. That's what happens. Other teams, they get beat up later. Guys miss tackles, and eventually in the fourth quarter, they're worn down. Your safeties have got to be a big play. You can't let receivers get behind you because Georgia will take shots. You've got to cover and then tackle when the guys are in front of you, and that's where the defense can get off the field. But you have to play complementary football both sides and be physical.
All right, so when I'm looking here, Georgia, I'm telling you this. I want you guys to tune, and I'm sitting there thinking fresh that I'm Kirby Smart, and I'm sitting there and talking to my team. Georgia, first rule number one, we are tuning out all of the noise because I don't want everyone is patting you on the back. Everyone's calling you the best team in this playoff. Everyone's telling you that you should steamroll the Ohio State Buckeyes. You have done it. We've been electric on offense. We have a 3-headed monster with McIntosh, Edwards, and Milton at the running game. The number one thing, Georgia, we coming in and we're respecting our opponent. We are respecting what they're able to do, and that is the number one thing as the Bulldogs go into this game. If we do not respect our opponent, don't be shocked if we're Clemson or Alabama. Because without doing that, without sitting there thinking that this is a legitimate threat to us, that it's going to make sure that we're overconfident. Second thing, Georgia, we're playing Georgia football. We're not playing anyone else. We're playing Georgia football. That means Kenny McIntosh, you're going to get a lot of handoffs. Dejon Edwards, when McIntosh is tired running the football, it's your turn now. And then when Edwards is tired, Milton, we are going to run it between the tackles. We are going to force Ohio State to show us that they can stop our ground attack right here, especially this first drive going into this game. I want to see Ohio State be able to stop the run. Yes, they were able to stop the run against Michigan, but Michigan was down to their backup running back in that game. I want to make Ohio State prove that they can stop all 3 of our running backs. And then Stetson, I'm going to call your number. I'm going to call your number, and I'm going to call your number something different. Ohio State's going to expect us to hit Brock Bowers. They're going to expect us to hit Darnell Washington. I need you to hit Ladd McConkey. I need Ladd McConkey to be hit on the outside here. We're going to take a couple of shots. We're going to force this Ohio State secondary to say that they can keep up, that they can cover in down the field against us. We are going to put that pressure because they're going to be so focused on our rushing attack. They're going to bring up their safeties. Are we able to hit the deep shots? Are we able to get those 50-50 jump balls? McConkey, this is on you. This is on you. You're coming in there outside of Bowers and Washington. You're our best receiver. You have shown time and time again that you're able to make plays. Now, you've been injured. You battled injuries all this year, but you need to come out and start playing better than what it is. Defensively, can we keep Stroud? I want to force CJ Stroud to run. I want that pressure to come up through the middle to put him on the outside. I want to force him to run for his life. I want to see him move his feet and actually have to beat us on the ground. Force him to listen, if we're going to let him sit back in the pocket, throw it around all day, then that's what he wants to do. I want to make him as uncomfortable as possible. And is he willing to take that run? If he sees green grass in front of him, is he willing to take off and try to get that first down on the ground, knowing that we're going to hit him and we're going to hit him hard? On the other side, I need a better job. Kelee Ringo. You are supposed to be one of our marquee cornerbacks. I need to see you match up toe-to-toe. If you want to be one of the best, if you want to go down as a legend here at Georgia, it's time for you. It's gut check time, and I need to see what you're able to do against this Ohio State offense. I don't care if it's Fleming, Abeka, or Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, you might lose some battles, but are you going to be willing to pick yourself up when you've lost battle, dust yourself off, forget about it, and go next play? Which one are you? We have to do a better job against the pass. We have to do this. But most importantly, at the end of the day, we have to play Georgia football. And Georgia football means run the football, control the clock, and suffocate this offense. Because that's what we've done against Tennessee. That's what we did last year against Alabama. That's what we've done when we have become the power of the SEC. We need to make sure that we do not forget who we are. Don't forget that we are the Georgia Bulldogs. We're the defending national champions, and that we're able to suffocate this game come the third quarter. If we're able to do that, we're on to the next one. But first starts with where we start at the beginning of it, knowing that this is a team that's backed into a corner. This is not a team that is going to come into this game and just bow down to you because we're the defending national champions. They are wounded. But they are dangerous as all get out. And if you don't respect that, I don't care what the fans say. I don't care what the national media says. I don't care what Saturday Down South says. I don't care what the SEC network says. We respect our opponent, because by doing that, that means we play Georgia football for a full 60 minutes, and we can go on and play for another national title and have a chance to be back-to-back national champions.
I think you bring up a great point, because the most dangerous Ohio State teams since 2014 are the two teams that, quote unquote, got backed in. 2014 team, they rode all the way national championship and they blew people out. The year in 2020, people were like, oh, it's COVID year. They only played 6 games, and they were well worthy of playing in that playoff and going to play for national title. And if you look at the Ohio State-Miami national championship game, everyone thought Miami was going to storm and beat the trash out of Ohio State. Ohio State won. When nobody expects Ohio State to win, that's when that team shows up and gets you. You cannot overlook them. There's talent across the board in that football team. And it's a dangerous matchup. And I think that's where Ohio State also has to understand that they're playing with house money. You know, nobody expects you to be here. They're saying, hey, you shouldn't even be half the fan base of the country, so you shouldn't even be there. So you're there. Take advantage of the opportunity. Play relentless. You have an opportunity to go win a title that you were given a second life, and that's where it comes down to.
Yeah, I'll say this, Fresh. That's the only thing that really scares me for Georgia is the fact that Ohio State is exactly like you said, playing with house money. No one feels like they should be here. No one is picking him. Heck, I'll steal a line from Major League. Most sports writers feel like it would be better off if we went out back and shot ourselves. But I'm all for wasting sport writers' time. It's scary. It's scary to me because if I'm Georgia, I feel like I have a little more pressure. If Ohio State loses this game, it's what's supposed to happen. And then Ohio State will also look and go, yeah, we have our top running back just went under the knife. Our top wide receiver is out. Yeah, I get it. We got some talent behind them there as well. Don't get me wrong on that part. But our leading linebacker is playing with two broken hands. Now, Ohio State, you got talent. You can step up. You can play. Don't get me wrong. But if they lose in this game, Georgia just beat another team. They won. We're on to this. The pressure's on Georgia. The pressure is on Georgia because if they don't win this game and all of a sudden you're looking at Michigan, Ohio State for the national championship, or, well, TCU, Ohio State for a national title, you're not going to be compared to the 21 team. Now, I will say this, though. I think that's unfair. Do not compare the 22 Georgia Bulldogs to the 21 team. That's not fair to Georgia. That's not fair to those kids. That 22 team or 21 team is a generational team. That is a team that comes around once every 20, 30 years. And we don't see a team that good that often. That is I will go down and say this. That is one of the 5 best teams I have seen play the game of college football. I would put them in the category of the USC with Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. I would put them in with those Miami teams with Kellen Winslow and Willis McGahee and all of them. I'll put them up against pretty much any Alabama team. That 21 team is a ridiculously loaded team. If you're comparing 22 to 21, that's not fair to 22. That's just putting unnecessary pressure on those kids to perform, saying, well, you're just as good as this team. Different type of team. They're winning in a completely different way than that they did last year. This is a good defense. Don't get me wrong, but this is a better offensive team for Georgia than we've seen in years past. And yeah, you might say, well, you're a good defense. That don't compare them to the same because that's not fair.
Yeah, they are. They're different. They have their positive and negative similarities, but they're definitely two completely unique football teams. Little side note there, in the matchups of 1 versus 4, the 1 seed is 6-2, but the 2 times the 4 seed is won was Ohio State in 2014 and Alabama in 2017, and both those teams won a national title. So just a little tidbit there. And we're talking about winning and beating teams. This is another thing I think for a legacy of what Kirby Smart has built and what the expectation is and what the opportunity is. At Georgia, you have beaten Clemson, Michigan, Notre Dame, Alabama, Oklahoma, Oregon, and LSU in your recent couple of years. You haven't beat Ohio State because you haven't played them since 1993, and that was Kirk Herbstreit's final game. So this is an accomplishment where these two schools have not played, and if you truly want to be a blue blood, like an elite blue blood, you have to beat other former blue bloods to be considered. If you don't beat Ohio State, then you're still, like you said, you have to beat the man to be the man. You still have that other thing of like, well, Ohio State has a history. They had the legacy. You're not in that level yet. So it's that, where is this your moment to finally get there and maybe accomplish it? Or are you still going to have that one thing hanging over you as a program going forward, not knowing when you'll play Ohio State ever again? That's another, that's more of a sports writer thing, but it becomes a conversation point if it goes on for too long down the stretch.
Well, you got to make sure that you don't become Clemson. That's the key thing that I would point out. Do I think Georgia's in danger of becoming Clemson? No. Did I think Clemson would drop to the level that they're at though? No, I don't. I didn't think that they would go that low. Georgia, this is a big moment for them. It's a big moment for Ohio State too. Like you have an opportunity to knock off the best team in the country. You got an opportunity and do it in their own backyard, which is most interesting. But the thing I did, Fresh, is I went back and I watched 2014. Watched a lot of that. And everybody, I mean everybody. Oh, this nice Ohio State made it. Oh, it's great. They're on their third string quarterback. But Georgia is going to, or Alabama is just going to destroy Ohio State. Alabama is just going to they're not ready for this Alabama team. And they're a year early. And that's all I've been hearing for like the last 2 weeks. All I'm hearing. And they hear it too. That's the thing that makes this Buckeye team very scary. Now, listen, this is a damn good Georgia team. This is a really good Georgia team. I don't see a lot of weaknesses on this team. And in my head, I don't see anything. But we'll go this. Fresh,